Picture the North Atlantic, pitch black, 2,000 feet below the surface, and something the size of a school bus is drifting through the dark. It has 8 arms lined with serrated suckers sharp enough to carve grooves into whale skin. Its eyes are the size of dinner plates. It has 3 hearts, blue blood, and a beak like a parrot hidden inside a tangle of muscle that could wrap around your entire body. And for most of human history, nobody, not a single scientist, sailor, or explorer, had ever seen one alive. That is the giant squid. And this is the story of how we went from being absolutely terrified of it to realizing the real story is somehow even stranger than the monster we invented. This is not just a nature documentary, it is a detective story, a myth-busting case file, and a character study told from both sides of the darkness. Let us start with fear. Imagine you're a Norse sailor in the 12th century. No GPS, no sonar, just a wooden boat, a prayer, and the stars. You're somewhere between Norway and Iceland, and something enormous just brushed the hull. A tentacle thick as a man's torso broke the surface for a moment, then vanished. You saw it. Your crewmates saw it. And the story's going to grow in the telling, the way all stories do at sea. The history of what we call the Kraken goes back to an account written in 1180 by King Sverre of Norway, nearly 9 centuries ago. The Kraken was said to haunt the seas of Norway, Greenland, and Iceland, a creature so large it could be mistaken for an island. Sailors would allegedly drop anchor on its back, light fires, cook their dinner, and only realise what was happening when the island started to sink. The myth became so powerful it survived into modern science. Carl Linnaeus, the father of biological classification, the man who invented the naming system we still use for every living thing on Earth, included the Kraken among the cephalopod mollusks in the first edition of his Systema Naturae in 1735. Let that sink in. Pun absolutely intended. Then came Norwegian Bishop Erik Pontoppidan, who popularised the legend in his Natural History of Norway in 1752. His Kraken was so enormous that when it descended, it created whirlpools capable of pulling ships under. In paintings, its tentacles reached around the masts of helpless vessels. Here is the first cosmic irony. The creature behind all of this was not a ship-sinking monster lurking at the surface. It was down in the cold dark, minding its own business, probably very confused about why a sperm whale kept showing up to eat it. But we will get to that. For centuries, the myth was all there was. As with many legends, the Kraken started with something real, based on sightings of a genuine animal. A dead squid washing ashore in Norway, arms splayed out, body the size of a car, would look exactly like the aftermath of a monster. Because in a sense, it was. Then science entered the room, and the first real progress came not from a live animal or a fancy submarine, but from a beak. In 1857, Danish naturalist Japetus Steenstrup analysed beached remains and formally identified the species Architeuthis dux. The name literally means ruling squid. Piecing together fragments, a beak here, a tentacle there, the occasional washed-up carcass, Steenstrup said with scientific confidence, "This animal is real, it is enormous, and it deserves a proper name." The giant squid had crossed from myth to measurable fact. But measurable fact and actually understanding the animal are two very different things. Just 4 years later, the myth got a dramatic shove back into the spotlight. In 1861, the French corvette Alecton encountered a giant squid off the coast of Africa. The crew harpooned it, tried to haul it aboard, and failed. The rope cut right through the gelatinous body. But they got sketches. They got measurements. They reported back, "We found one. It is real. It is enormous." And it got away. Then came the 1870s, and a Reverend in Newfoundland who changed everything. In October of 1873, Reverend Moses Harvey opened his front door in St. John's to discover that monsters exist. Before him was a severed tentacle, dusky red, tough as leather, about the thickness of a man's wrist, brought by a fisherman who knew Harvey would understand its significance. Harvey later described it as the veritable arm of the hitherto mythical devil fish. Then, in 1874, Moses Harvey became the first person to photograph a giant squid, draping it over his bathtub rail to display its magnitude. A Reverend, draping a 27-foot sea monster over his bathtub. His wife presumably not thrilled about any of this, but Harvey knew exactly what he had, and it was largely through his efforts that the giant squid became known to British and American zoologists. Harvey sent the specimen to scientist A.E. Verrill, who who compiled the first scientific study and illustrations of giant squids ever published. From Newfoundland specimens, Verrill and his colleague James Emerton created the first accurate model, a 40-foot plaster structure displayed at the International Fisheries Exhibition in London in 1883. The public lined up to see it. The monster had a face now, dimensions, a scientific name, and instead of calming people down, it made the fear worse. Because now it was confirmed, the thing was real, it was 40 feet long, and nobody had any idea what it actually did down there in the dark. So what did everyone assume? Attack things, hunt, dominate, terrorize. The narrative wrote itself. Biggest invertebrate on Earth, serrated suckers, tentacles the length of a bus, apex predator of the deep. Jules Verne put a giant squid in 20,000 leagues under the sea and had it attack a submarine. The popular image was locked in, fearless, aggressive, unstoppable. And here is where the detective story takes its first major turn, because the evidence was about to tell a very different story. Scientists began examining sperm whales, and what they found rewrote the narrative completely. Sperm whales frequently bear circular scars left by giant squid suckers. Researchers have recovered squid beaks from sperm whale stomachs, and pieces of squid tissue including tentacles have been recorded in whales' guts. Stop. The beaks were in the whale's stomach, not the whale's remains in the squid's stomach. The squid's remains in the whale's stomach. These lines of evidence make clear that sperm whales and giant squid have a long-standing predator-prey relationship. And the circular scars on whale skin, those are from the squid fighting back. Older sperm whales have so many scars they overlap each other. Picture an old sperm whale surfacing in the Pacific. Its back is a map of overlapping circular marks, testament to a lifetime of encounters in the dark. Each scar is a data point. Each one represents a moment when a giant squid fought for its life and lost. Because the scars are on the whale survived. The squid, based on what we find in those stomachs, did not. Not the apex predator, the giant squid is prey. It is one of the most hunted animals on the planet, chased by the largest toothed predator that has ever existed, through absolute darkness, in water cold enough to make your bones ache, at pressures that would crush a human being into nothing. Suddenly the monster looks a lot less like a monster, and a lot more like a survivor, and the animal's biology confirms it when you look closely. Architeuthis ducks can reach up to 60 feet in length, weigh up to 1,000 pounds, and lives in the deep sea. It eats fish and smaller squid. Its predator is the sperm whale, one predator listed, one. The apex monster of legend has exactly one confirmed natural enemy, and that enemy eats it for lunch. Living at depths of 300 to 1,000 meters, these creatures face extreme pressures, low temperatures, and minimal light. At such depths, pressure can reach over 100 atmospheres, every square centimeter of the squid's body experiencing a force equivalent to 100 kilograms. That is not the lair of a fearless conqueror. That is a survival environment so extreme the animal evolved an entirely unique solution just to float. Here is one of the strangest facts in all of zoology. The giant squid achieves buoyancy through ammonia-filled tissues. Unlike most marine animals that rely on gas-filled bladders, the giant squid's tissues contain high concentrations of ammonia, which is less dense than seawater. More than half its body weight is essentially a chemical buoyancy tank. And here is the delicious irony. This also gives the squid's flesh an unpalatable taste to humans, making it unattractive for commercial fishing. The monster that terrified sailors for centuries is, to human taste buds, essentially inedible. Nature's greatest joke. But the ammonia strategy reveals something deeper. Most deep-living squids that use this method have poor swimming ability and are usually found only at bathypelagic depths, where the pressure to have quick escape abilities is reduced. Poor swimming ability. The creature from the legend, the one that attacked ships, wrapped tentacles around masts, dragged sailors to the bottom, is, in reality, not a fast swimmer. It drifts. It conserves energy. It waits in the dark. Not because it is plotting, because the deep ocean is an energy desert, and survival there is about efficiency, not aggression. Now let us talk about those famous eyes, because this is where the giant squid stops being a horror story and starts being genuinely heartbreaking. Giant squid have the largest eyes in the animal kingdom, up to 25 centimeters in diameter, but those eyes are not optimized for detailed vision. They are optimized for detecting faint light and movement, such as the bioluminescent signals produced by other organisms disturbed by a descending sperm whale. Think about that. Those enormous eyes are not for seeing the world in rich detail. They are early warning systems, survival tools. The giant squid has the biggest eyes in the animal kingdom not because it is powerful, but because it is afraid. In its world, the thing that finds you first wins, and if the thing that finds you is a sperm whale, you lose. 3 hearts, blue blood, ammonia-filled tissues, eyes the size of dinner plates. And this, its esophagus passes through the hole in the middle of its brain, which means it has to chew its food into tiny pieces or risk brain damage every time it eats. This is the kraken. It has to be careful not to hurt its own brain every time it takes a bite of fish. It floats on ammonia. It drifts in the cold dark and hopes a 60-foot predator does not find it today. And yet, it is still extraordinary. Still one of the most astonishing creatures that has ever existed. Because even though it is prey, it is not passive. When a sperm whale comes for it, the squid fights. It wraps its arms around the whale's head, drives those serrated suckers in, and holds on. It does not win. The beaks in the stomach tell us that, but it does not go quietly. Every set of overlapping scars on an old sperm whale is a record of a squid that made that whale work for its meal, and those scars are evidence of something we have never witnessed. These battles between the largest toothed predator on Earth and the largest invertebrate happen in total darkness, 2,000 feet down, in water cold enough to preserve a body for centuries. They happen constantly, and we have never once seen one. We know only because of the evidence left behind, the scars, the beaks, the ghost data of violence written into living flesh. That is the kind of story that should make you feel something, not fear, wonder, now. After centuries of legends, after a beak in 1857 and a bathtub photograph in 1874, and plaster models and whale stomachs full of evidence, nobody had ever seen a living giant squid in its natural habitat. Not once, until 2004. In 2004, researchers in Japan took the first images ever of a live giant squid in the wild, suspending a long line from their research vessel with a camera and bait attached. The first known footage showed a giant squid wrapping its tentacle around the camera in the deep ocean. The camera. It investigated the camera, not a ship, not a sailor, a camera. The kraken of legend, the ship-destroying monster of 1,000 years of nightmares, was curious about a camera. Then came 2012. The first video footage of an adult giant squid in the wild. A device called the Medusa captured it off the coast of Japan at a depth of around 2,000 feet. 832 years after King Sverre wrote about the monster, a camera descended into the Pacific and a giant squid swam into frame, moving through the dark water with slow, deliberate elegance. Not attacking, not raging, just existing. That footage does not look like a monster. It looks like a creature doing what creatures do, navigating its world, conserving energy, surviving. And the most honest thing we can say right now, with all the technology we have and all the dives we have made, is this: we still barely know it. Despite being one of the largest invertebrates on Earth, the giant squid remained undocumented other than from remains inside sperm whale stomachs. Only a handful have ever been seen alive. We have been to the moon. We have sent probes to the edge of the solar system. We have mapped the surface of Mars in higher resolution than parts of our own ocean floor. And the giant squid, an animal that can weigh 1,000 pounds, that lives in every major ocean on Earth, that has been part of human mythology for nearly 1,000 years, remains, in almost every meaningful sense, a mystery. We built the kraken because we were afraid. We took the evidence we had, a tentacle here, a beached carcass there, a sailor's terrified account, and filled in the gaps with the thing we feared most, a monster that hunted us. Because that is what humans do when we do not understand something. We make it into a threat. But the real animal, Archaeoteuthis dux, drifting through the dark on its ammonia-filled body, scanning the water with those enormous, desperate eyes, leaving claw marks on the skin of the whale that is about to eat it, that animal is not a threat to us. It never was. The kraken was always a reflection of us, our fear, our need to put a face on the unknown. The giant squid is something much more interesting than a monster. It is a survivor. Ancient cephalopods have been in the ocean for hundreds of millions of years, strange in ways that make every science fiction alien look derivative. Blue blood, 3 hearts, a brain shaped like a donut, and eyes that evolved specifically to watch for death in the dark. And down there, right now, in the cold and the dark, something the size of a school bus is drifting through water no human eye will ever see, doing exactly what it has always done, surviving, fighting, existing, completely indifferent to the 1,000 years of legends we built around it. That is not a horror story. That is one of the greatest stories on Earth. If this video made you look at the ocean differently, hit that like button. Archaeoteuthis ducks deserves the recognition. Drop a comment with the most mind-bending fact from this video, because I want to know what broke your brain hardest. Was it the ammonia? The esophagus through the brain? The scars on the whale? Subscribe for more deep-sea detective stories, because the ocean is full of them, and we are just getting started. The dark goes a long way down. Let us keep diving.